Hi, my name's Gavin, and anyone who's watching this probably already knows who I am. But this is my first take at a video, and what I wanted to do with this was to create a video sort of campaign diary thing, mostly for my records, but maybe the players will want to see it too, so that we just have a quick and easy record of what happened throughout the sessions, and at the very least, I can go back and sort of listen to what I remember from when it was fresher in my mind. So my first one here is going to be for my Pathfinder 2 campaign, which is I'm currently running an edited, not too heavily edited version of Age of Ashes for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, um, which we've ran one session for so far. Hopefully the second will be soon. So for players, we have my lovely wife, Carrie, who mostly goes by Elizabeth to other people, good friend Tyler, and then Grayson, who's my brother. So just three players, at least for the moment. Carrie is playing a high elven witch. Her name is Manon, and she's kind of an expert in occult magic. And her familiar is a little emerald dragonling named Theodore. Uh, so we'll get into that more later on. Tyler is playing a human barbarian named Toulon from, I don't remember the name of his tribe exactly, but we'll get all the details straight as we get further into this campaign. And his people are very ancient people. They used to be much more powerful. And they worshipped this primordial phoenix, which is now gone, and uh, their people still worship it and think that it will return, but there's some stuff going on with that. And then we have Grayson playing Arrow, who is a high elven um, fighter who has the archetype, multi-class archetype in Wizard as well. So he's sort of a spell sword kind of thing, although his main weapon is kind of a bow and arrow right now. We'll see how that character develops. So Arrow is next I'll get into backgrounds quick, and this part will be long, but I won't have to do this every time, and we'll get to know the characters more as we play. So Arrow is a high elf who is probably pretty old. On this current regeneration of his, um, he's been has some sort of past, but he started having visions of fires and destruction, and it led him into the research of dragons, and specifically he was getting visions of what might be Tiamat. So he has studied in the lore of the dragon god Tiamat, and recently he has seen in his dreams some more specifics, namely the town of Breach Hill, where the adventure starts. So he traveled there and has been in Breach Hill for a while now, doing some research, and knows the town probably the best out of the characters. Next, we have Toulon, who is really just a mercenary, like a lot of his people are. They take warfare and fighting stance very seriously. So he's kind of a mercenary and traveled here mostly on the reputation of Breach Hill. And then we've got Manon, who is sort of in the same boat as Toulon. She has a background as being a field medic, and though she lost her company sort of around the same time that she received her familiar, she is she is still has some experience in that, and with her new powers, is looking to make a name for herself as well. So all of the three adventurers slash heroes slash whatever they are idols, of course, in my world. And an idol is a person of particularly strong power. Now, um, you can kind of think of this like a fantasy superhero sort of thing. And that's what pretty much every player character is in my world. And there are NPC versions of idols. There are also minor idols who are people who are able to grow in strength and power up to a certain point. That would be roughly around level 5 to 7 ish, would be where they would cap out, whereas full idols um, can grow in strength all the way up to whatever the limits of the game system. They can be very strong, Superman like strength, potentially. Maybe not quite that much, but you know what I mean. And anyways, they've all met up in this town of Breach Hill. Now, Breach Hill has a really interesting reputation. It's outside of the borders of the Pentamark, which is sort of the main human lands in Averon, or at least on this continent in Averon. And it's just on the northeastern side of it, sort of up against the foothills of the Emberclaw Mountains. And to the north would be the large steppe plains, where a lot of barbarous people live, sort of Mongol type people from the steppe up there who get into lots of confrontations. So the area is a very frontier town. It's fairly small, about 1,500 residents in the walled city slash town. More residents would be in the areas surrounding it, in small villages and hamlets, supporting farming and food for the community. It's very self-sufficient that way. The town certainly has the area and the resources to support everybody within the town walls. So it's very strongly fortified for a town of this size, and they do have a pretty well put together town guard, but they don't like to risk themselves unnecessarily. The town is very strange to an outsider. Everybody is very kindly, open-minded, welcoming, almost to a creepy degree, you might say. And everybody's very strongly independent and self-sufficient. And they very much put a lot of pride in people being the best at their craft and really trying to do what they love. And sort of their claim to fame is being a hero maker, or an idol finder. You know, they hold a monthly ceremony called the Call to Heroes, which most of the time is not too impressive, but it gives people the opportunity to go out and get experience in adventures. It also gives the town some extra safety by drawing in adventurers and mercenaries who might want to get some work and some fame to start their careers before they move on to potentially more lucrative areas, because the town is fairly well to do with the adventurers coming through, and it is on a caravan route through the Emberclaws. It sits on the road before the pass. It's not the main pass through the mountains, but it is used to a certain degree. So there is a fair amount of trade that happens here, and people rolling through who might take on such work. And they have a reputation for a lot of famous people and adventurers and idols out there getting their start here in Breach Hill. And the town takes a lot of pride in that. So at the moment, the town is actually fairly light on idols and stuff. There's currently only one other mercenary group in town. Their name is the well, never mind. The something Spears. I believe I called them in session the Green Spears, although I'm not sure I want to keep that name. But for now, I'll call them the Green Spears. Excuse my pause there. And the party decided to call themselves the Emerald Dragons after Theodore. So, sort of a rivalry between those two. And anyways, so the session kicks off. I'll stop with the exposition for now. With everybody in town meeting at the tavern of that's called Wizard's Grace, sort of after the town's founder, Lamond Breachton, who was a wizard who found the people stranded there and sort of founded the town. That's some more history we can get into later. But this tavern is sort of traditional for everybody who's going to go to the ceremony of the call to heroes to meet up there beforehand, have some drinks, sort of see who's going to do what, talk some speculation. It's generally considered a good time by everybody involved. So, um, so that's where all the heroes met up, and seeing themselves as the only likely people to be petitioners for a contract in the Call to Heroes, beyond the group of the Green Spears, who were clearly together, they all sort of met up, formed a really ragtag group quickly, and got ready to go. There was some brief introductions, but mostly it was down to business. Then, after a little while, they headed over to the town hall, and of course, they passed by or saw Monument Circle, which is built over Breach Creek, which is the river that runs through town. It's not a huge river, could be a creek or a river. It's a large creek, small river. But anyways, this Monument Circle has a big statue of Lamond Breachton in the middle of it, cast in bronze. But also, it has 6 water towers around, providing a large amount of stores of water for the town in the event of a siege or anything else, much more than the town needs. But it's one of the sort of sights of the town, is the 6 water towers around the Monument Circle. So they see that and they go to town hall, and outside of town hall they meet a goblin named Warble, Warble Stonetooth, and they find out from her that she's apparently some kind of ambassador to the town for the goblin tribe of Stonetooths, who live outside of town. And they form a relationship with the town, and Warble gets to live in town to like sort of communicate back and forth between the goblins and the townsfolk. And it's a mutually beneficial relationship all around. Breach Hill is really the type to let anything that's non-hostile to them settle in the surrounding area to take some of the brunt of any potential force coming against the city. They're more than happy to have anyone else around to help with that. Like why the Hunter Knights were more than welcome to set up a citadel outside of Breach Hill for a while. In any case, so they talk to Warble and find out that she was supposed to meet with her tribe's chieftain 3 days ago, and she didn't make the meeting, and she's been worried ever since. And she also has noticed that in the last couple of days there's been distress signals of smoke coming up from the battlements of Citadel Alterian, which is the old Hunter Knights citadel located up on the hill, specifically the Order of the Nail Hunter Knights. And so she quickly met with the town council to, since the Call to Heroes was coming up anyways in a couple days, she decided to put her request in for the Call to Heroes to have somebody help her investigate. So she meets with the party, and the party seems very eager to help her, which she's grateful for. And then they quickly get ushered into town hall to start the Call to Heroes. And during this, the the president of the council. There's 5 council members in total. They're all up at the front. The president, whose name is Greta, sort of reads off the whole initial start thing about how the spirit of Breach Hill's legacy of independence and heroics, people should step forward and prove themselves. And so they get through the opening ceremonies, and there's an initial contract to deal with bandits on the Emberclaw Pass to the east that have been troubling merchant caravans coming through, which the players could have chosen to petition for if they wanted to. The Green Spears immediately leapt upon the chance to do this. And the players didn't intervene. If they did, I probably would have let it come down to a roll, and if the players really wanted to go after that contract instead of Warbles, we could have figured that out. But they were pretty dead set on Warble. So the Green Spears very pompously take that job. The council agrees, and next Warble gets called to the stand to present her case. Toulon immediately gets up and says, "We'll do it," before she has a chance, which irritates President Greta. So she calls to order and sort of reprimands him. Warble looks grateful, but that's just some initial character thing there. Toulon may not know the best way to act in society. However, Warble gets up and petitions her case, and before anyone can say anything, a clerk bursts in from the side room shouting that there's fire, and fire follows in behind him. Now, at this point, everything goes into chaos. All of the pews, they aren't really pews because it's not a church, but the bench rows are toppled over. People fall down. The room's quite crowded, and there's only a couple exits. Not enough for like modern fire safety codes, probably. Now, as everybody's scrambling about to get out, and people are getting trapped and potentially trampled, and there's some minor injuries, everybody jumps to action. Now, before anyone can really act, a small fire spirit also seems to come in, spreading the fire, and it looks like at this point he might be the source, and he seems to cackle mischievously, if not necessarily evilly. Now, as the party goes into action, they notice that the town councilors manage to remain somewhat calm, or at least most of them do, and are helping to usher people out the doors away from the fire. But the rest of the townsfolk are scrambling to get out, and they are remaining calmer than some others might, as is the Breach Hill legacy, but there's definitely people who need help, as there's 40 or so townsfolk left in the hall. Now the party jumps to action, and Arrow immediately tries to kill or at least dissipate this fire spirit, and fires an arrow at it and knocks it back some, and does a pretty severe amount of physical damage to its physical form. And Toulon, I think Toulon actually acted first here, and he starts helping people out, and he's able to help a couple people get up and pointed towards the door. And then the fire spirit or sprite manages to set some more areas on fire. The fire spreads, smoke is spreading. Meanwhile, Manon has an idea to try to bring water in to do something to put out the fire. And I explained that in a town like this, that would typically be something of a bucket brigade if there was no one magically present to be able to douse such a fire, which in this case there was not. And the town, and I just let her know with a society check that towns like this do deal with fires, and they probably know how to form a bucket brigade. So she starts organizing townsfolk to do so, and it's going to take a few rounds for them to be able to get people out enough to form the line, and also get people organized. But it'll go pretty speedily since people have trained for this with her success on a society check there. So she starts doing that, and as part of doing that, also helps some more people out of the building. Meanwhile, the town councilors are also helping people out. The situation proceeds for a few rounds. The fire method, or fire sprite rather, is darting out of the way every which way it can, hiding in the fire. It's trying to stay away and out of reach of arrow easily. And the benches are all toppled over, which create an area of difficult terrain, and he is able to do so fairly effectively. This is also coupled with the fact that he has a bit of a silly laugh, and Manon doesn't necessarily want to kill the poor thing. So they start actually chatting with him, and they come to some sort of a deal over the course of also trying to help people out and whatnot. That in exchange for, I think they promise him 5 silver pieces, which he finds delicious. The party doesn't know this yet. In exchange for some silver or any precious metal for the sprite would do, but they promise him 5 silver. He'll stop setting fires, and they find out that he wasn't actually doing this all on his own. But they promise him that if he stops and gives them more information, that they will not, keep hurting him. Now, spirits in my world like this, like the sprite, probably would not die per se if they were to be destroyed, but they would be discorporated, I guess would be the way to put it, or dissipated and sort of sent back to the spirit world / the dream world, the dream realm, the realm of dreams, whatever. And they would lose, while they themselves would not die, they would lose the sort of physical personality that they develop as a sprite in the world. So they're typically pretty reluctant to want to get killed if possible. And most spirits are not directly malevolent. This one was born, its physical form was born with fire, so it wants to set fires and burn things. That's its nature. And so, anyways, they create a deal with it, and he and so they start doing that, and they also start getting people out and starting the bucket brigade. And now, after a few rounds, the smoke from this fire is really going to start to fill the room and start hurting people who are remaining. When they just managed to get the bucket brigade put together and the fire under control enough to prevent anybody from getting any serious damage or dying, Manon at one point trying to go out and put up the fire does get burned a little bit from proximity, but that's the extent of damage caused. After they manage to get the fire put out, which they do successfully, and they manage to save most of the town hall, they find out from Mephismo, which is the name of this fire sprite spirit, that somebody named Calmont summoned him and put him to the task of setting more fires, or at least spreading the fire, which Calmont had already started. And so, anyway, so they find out that somebody named Calmont had done this, and he ran off. They talk to some people outside too, and find out that he seems to have ran off in the direction of Hunter Knight Hill, or Hunter's Hill, which is, of course, where Citadel Altarian is, which is where the party is wanting to go anyways to help Warble. So that is convenient, I suppose. For managing to save Town Hall, they are well rewarded. 50 silver pieces a piece, I believe, which is a pretty solid amount. So they get rewarded with that. They also get rewarded with a couple potions as well. The town had on stock as an adventuring town. They would have these things, and most people would anyways, because while healing potions and the like don't work quite the same way on non-idols as they do on idols, they're still quite useful because they do promote healing much quicker than the normal pace in regular people. And they can certainly save somebody from a normally mortal wound if they aren't dead. A healing potion can spurn the body on and keep it alive long enough to start healing on its own. It just won't be almost instantaneous like it might be for an idol. And in addition to that, Greta also tells the party that in addition to the 10 gold pieces they would get for helping Warble, she'll also offer an additional 10 gold pieces for bringing back Calmont, and she would like him brought back alive for questioning and to figure out why in the world he would do such a thing. And that is pretty much where we left off for that session. It was pretty short. The actual playtime was long. We had to finish up Carrie's character Manon, and there was technical difficulties as we are running this whole thing in Foundry, so that Grayson can play with us more easier. But it worked out pretty well. It was a good proof of concept. Excited for the next session, which I believe they will be following up to see where Calmont went to, and also help Warble. They also found out that Calmont is the bookseller's apprentice, so they may indeed end up checking out the booksellers as well to see if there's any clues there. Not sure what they'll do. And so I believe that's about it. This has been close to a half hour already. Probably pretty rambly, but I think it'll be a good length. So I will check out the quality of this, and it was a good first try. Now, if anybody out there is watching this, appreciate your time. Stick around. The quality of these are only going to increase as we go along here. And definitely let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer down in the comments of this video. Thanks. Signing off.